Hello, Magic English 8 here. Thank you for watching my videos. I hope they are helping you improve and simultaneously you enjoy watching them. If you find the videos useful, please kindly share them with your friends, like them, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Today I am with you with another unit of Communicate What You Mean, our advanced course for English grammar. So far we have covered 27 videos and this is video 28, again talking about adjective clauses. So relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause is what we are discussing today. The previous session we talked about relative pronouns as subject of the adjective clause. On our Word file you can see that we are covering pages 139 to 143 of Communicate What You Mean, relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause. You want to better understand this video, please go and watch video 1 of this playlist talking about phrase, clause, dependent and independent, and basics of our advanced course, video 25 about adjective clauses, 26 about necessary, unnecessary adjective clauses, and 27 about relative pronouns as subject of the adjective clause. Sometimes I get this question that the videos on the channel are kind of mixed, how to navigate through it. Easy peasy. This is my YouTube channel. Yeah, there is a lot of videos here and kind of mixed and confusing. So easily please go to playlist, and under playlist you can find tactics for listening 2, tactics for listening 1, speaking and grammar intermediate, speaking and grammar elementary, and this is what we are covering, advanced English grammar course videos 1, 2, 27 so far uploaded, 25 the adjective clause, 26 necessary, unnecessary, and 27 relative pronouns as subject of the adjective clause. So that is basically how you can navigate through this channel or any other. So let's start it. Relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause. Some examples to warm up our mind. The book is fascinating. She's reading it. So two simple sentences. We want to integrate them together to make an adjective clause in the middle. The book that she's reading is fascinating. That she's reading, adjective clause describing the book. But this that is our relative pronoun as an object. Why? Because it has come instead of this object word here. That's why we call it a relative pronoun as object of the adjective clause. Second example, the movie was thrilling, exciting. We watched it last night. So again, the same story. The movie which we watched last night, which relative pronoun has come instead of an object. We call it relative pronoun as object. And one for people with whom, of course. The artist is giving a lecture. We met him at the gallery. The artist whom we met, whom, relative pronoun instead of him, which is an object, relative pronoun as object. And you just know that where the adjective clause falls. In the previous video we talked about it. The adjective clause falls right after the word it is modifying. Okay. A common mistake here that I see in most of my students is that they bring the relative pronoun, which is that, whom, which, who, whatever, and at the same time they repeat that reference word as well. How? Something like this. In the three examples that just now we covered, the mistake version will be like this. The book that she's reading, it is so this it is the mistake. Or the movie which we watched it last night. If you bring which, it is exactly instead of this it. You must omit it. And the artist who we met him at the gallery. Who we met, not who we met him. So these three are mistakes, common mistakes. That's why I brought them. Be careful not to repeat the pronoun that it is referring to. Now, relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause can, it's not a must, can be omitted only if the adjective clause is necessary. What is the necessary, unnecessary adjective clause? Video 26 will tell you about that. So one more time, relative pronouns, who, whom, which, that, they can be omitted only if this adjective clause is necessary. How? The guest whom they invited arrived early. So instead of whom, we can go with a who, but a little less formal. The guest who they invited arrived early, correct? Instead of who, you can go with a that, a little again less formal. The guest that they invited arrived early, correct? And the last one, which is the least formal one, the guest they invited arrived early. Relative pronoun here is omitted. Why? Because it is a relative pronoun as object, and this clause is necessary. So all these four sentences are correct. This one is more formal, this one less, and this one is the least formal one. An example with which and that: the book which she borrowed was excellent. The book that she borrowed was excellent. The book she borrowed was excellent. Relative pronoun is omitted and less formal. Got it? Good. Relative pronoun as subject or object of the adjective clause. So video 27 and video 28. These two are talking about relative pronouns as subject and object of the adjective clause. How do I understand if the relative pronoun is subject or object? Easily you can do that. These two sentences, please compare. The artist who paints these portraits is very talented. The artist who we met at the exhibition is very talented. The two sentences are very similar. Basics are the same, relative pronouns are the same, but one of them is relative pronoun as subject. The other one is relative pronoun as object. How do I understand? I need to go back and reconstruct the deep structure of these two sentences. After all, this is the result of two sentences fused together. I need to find those two sentences. The two sentences are: the artist is very talented, main clause. He paints these portraits, the dependent clause. So the artist who paints these portraits, this who has come instead of he. So that's why we say relative pronoun as a subject. Relative pronoun as a subject. So it has come instead of a subject in the deep structure. It was a subject instead of who. We call it relative pronoun as subject. And if you pay attention, after relative pronoun as subject, we have a verb phrase. But this one here is relative pronoun as object. Why? Let's see. Here I have the two sentences forming this one. The artist is very talented, the same as the previous one. We met him at the exhibition. So here, who has come instead of an object. We call it relative pronoun as object. And if you see here, relative pronoun as object is followed by an independent clause. It has a subject, it has a verb, but here it is a verb phrase. Relative pronoun as subject is followed by a verb phrase. Relative pronoun as object is followed by an independent clause. Okay, another example to better clarify the story. The building which houses the museum is historic. House here is a verb. It means it has placed the museum in it. The building which houses the museum. So this relative pronoun is followed by a verb phrase. We can say that it is a relative pronoun as subject. But the deeper structure, again the same story. The building is historic. It houses, so it has come instead of it. That's why we call it relative pronoun as subject. The other example, the building which we visited yesterday is historic. Relative pronoun followed by an independent clause. That is a clue. This is relative pronoun as object, and the deep structure will prove the fact. The building is historic. We visited it, which instead of it. So relative pronoun as object. Got it? It was very important because later we want to reduce the adjective clause to make our sentences more professional. We need to know if the relative pronoun is subject or object of the adjective clause. So that's what I taught you about relative pronouns as object. Before heading for the exercises, let's go to the book and see if it has anything for us. Relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause. It says, she's the friend I visited her. So she's the friend whom I visited instead of her object. She has many classical records. She bought the records in Vienna. She has many classical records which she bought instead of the object. I'm looking for the symphony. She bought it. I'm looking for the symphony that she bought. So object, relative pronoun. Instead of whom, we can have a that also. We can have a who also. We can omit it. So she's the friend whom I visited. She's the friend who I visited. That I visited. Or even omit. She's the friend I visited. We will like the classical records which she bought. The classical records that she bought, the classical record she bought in Vienna. Relative pronoun as object can be omitted if the clause is necessary. Okay, so this is the story. We talked about it. Whom, who, we talked about it. And here it says if we omit it, it will be less formal. And here it says only in necessary adjective clauses the relative pronoun as object can be omitted. That is a wrap up of our story. Exercise 10, talking about John Wayne. So write who, whom, which, or that only in the sentences that need a pronoun. What does it mean? It means if the adjective clause is subject relative pronoun, put who, whom, which, that. If it is an object, don't put anything. Okay? Number 1, John Wayne. Who was a famous American cowboy actor? Relative pronoun as subject. We need to have it. Why? It is followed by a verb phrase. So this one was relative pronoun as subject. We need it. You can also say that was famous. Number 2, most of his movies, which have been seen all over the world, were westerns. So relative pronoun as subject again. Why most of his movies were westerns? They have been seen, so it cannot be omitted. Westerns were the movies he loved most of all. Westerns were the movies he loved most of all. Relative pronoun as object, it is omitted here. Number 4, the Hollywood director with whom John Wayne enjoyed working was John Ford. So this is the result of two sentences. The first one, the Hollywood director was John Ford. Sentence 2, John Wayne enjoyed working with him. So here the relative pronoun is object. Maybe you argue that it can be omitted, but I say no. Why? Point. Next session we will talk about it, but here, as a foreshadow, if the relative pronoun is preceded by a preposition with, in, on, at, whatever, a preposition, this relative pronoun cannot be omitted. If the relative pronoun is preceded by a preposition, it cannot be omitted, and it is only a whom for people and only a which for objects. Nothing else. Nothing else. Throughout the exercise we will cover it, but just for the time being, know that if the relative pronoun is preceded by, or if before the relative pronoun a preposition comes, the relative pronoun for people is only whom, nothing else. No who, no that. And for objects or things, it is only a which, not that or anything else, and it cannot be omitted. The Hollywood director with whom John Wayne enjoyed working was John Ford. Number 5, the ranch the Wayne family owns is in California. So the ranch, it is object, and the relative pronoun here is omitted. Number 6, John Wayne lived in California, but the state he was born in was Iowa. So the state that he was born in, it is object, it is omitted. Number 7. His father was a pharmacist, who moved his family to California early in John Wayne's life. Relative pronoun as subject and cannot be omitted. Only that could come instead of who. Number 8. The film we saw last week, it is relative pronoun as object and it is omitted. Number 9. John Wayne also produced several of the movies that he starred in, relative pronoun as object and omitted. Star as a verb. So to be the main actor or the lead role. Number 10. The Alamo is the name of one of the films that he produced. He produced a relative pronoun as object, omitted. 11. The film for which I told you if the relative pronoun is preceded by a preposition, that relative pronoun is only a whom or a which, and it cannot be omitted. The film for which, because it is film, so we can bring which and nothing else. The film for which he received an Academy Award was True Grit. Okay. Number 12. Many movie critics, subject, who constantly gave his movies bad reviews, didn't believe he was a good actor, so cannot be reduced. Number 13. Again, the same story, relative pronoun preceded by a preposition. However, it was the ordinary moviegoer to whom John Wayne owed his success. It was the ordinary moviegoer. Moviegoer is somebody who regularly goes to the movies or to cinema. It was the ordinary moviegoer to whom John Wayne owed his success. So relative pronoun is preceded by a preposition. It is only whom for people and it cannot be omitted. And just one point, the sentence is the result of two sentences and they are like this. However, it was the ordinary moviegoer, period. John Wayne owed his success to them. John Wayne owed his success to them. So this is these two sentences. Owe something to someone. Number 13. Isn't that the same story again? Isn't that the movie studio in which he made many of his films? Relative pronoun as object preceded by a preposition, cannot be omitted. Number 15. John Wayne had 3 wives. By whom? By them. Object preceded by a preposition. He had a total of 7 children. So the two sentences here are John Wayne had 3 wives, period. He had a total of 7 children. By them, by the 3 wives. And number 16, cowboy fans who are all over the world will miss him greatly. Relative pronoun as subject and cannot be omitted. Only who can come, only that can come instead of this who. Okay, I hope you got it so far. And now, exercise 11-141. It says first underline the adjective clause in each sentence and then decide if the sentence is correct or incorrect. For the incorrect one, please bring the correct version. Let's see. I have just spoken with a friend I met in Michigan last year. Relative pronoun as object here is omitted and the sentence is correct. Number 2. He is currently finishing a PhD degree, which I haven't even started yet. This sentence is correct. I just added this comma here. But the sentence is already correct. Object, relative pronoun. Number 3. He is really a very intelligent student who all his professors respect. So in this sentence we have a relative pronoun and a possessive adjective. I recommend a whose instead of this. It is not that favorable to have both relative pronouns and possessive adjective here. So we say he is really a very intelligent student whose professors all respect. Whose professors all respect. So instead of who his, we go with whose. This second version is preferable, though in spoken English it could be correct, but academic English prefers this one. Number 4, Last semester, he wrote a paper that his economic professor urged him to send to a business journal for publication. Correct and no problem. Number 5, another professor he had for a marketing course often used him as an assistant. Correct and no problem. Number 6, he recently scored 95 on an economics test that the other students failed. Correct adjective clause without any mistake. Number 7, here is the score that I received. It, the common mistake. Here is the score that I received on the test. Preposition for test, on. I failed parts 1 and 2, which I didn't understand very well, of the test. Don't you think that of the test should follow parts 1 and 2? Yes. So, I failed parts 1 and 2 of the test. It is one chunk, one thought group, which I didn't understand very well. So that was the only mistake in this one. Number 9, the final grade will probably be very low that I get in economics. So adjective clause is for low, or adjective clause is for the final grade. If it is for the final grade, it should follow final grade. The final grade that I get in economics will probably be very low. This one was incorrect. Number 10. In addition to being a very good student, my friend is a nice person who all his classmates, the same story, I prefer this one. In addition to being a very good student, my friend is a nice person whose classmates all like. Okay, you got it? Kind of your mind got warm. And now exercise 12, 142. It is a text which is not that coherent. By adding some adjective clauses in the middle of the sentences, we are going to contribute to the cohesion of the text. Statements or sentences A to H, here A to K, and the text is here. The text is okay grammatically, no problem, but it is choppy. The sentences are not smoothly linked together. Now, what do? First, I assess these sentences into 3 different categories. If you want to improve the text, see, sentences D, E, and F provide context about television ownership, scheduling, and program frequency. So, regarding the meaning, they are in this realm of idea. Sentences A, H, I, J, they talk about commercials, specific examples of programs, and real-life experiences. And sentences B, G, and K, they are opinions, they are experiences, they are criticisms. So that's how I classify these sentences, and now I put them accordingly. My suggested answer is just a suggested answer. A TV set, which most Americans own, may be more dangerous than the kitchen stove because not all the programs are desirable. There are many television critics who have expressed negative opinions about most of the programs on television, including the fact that television has raised the crime rate among young people and has caused students' test scores to go down. In addition, many parents believe there is too much sex and violence on the shows, which are full of fighting and killing. While we are covering some points here, on the shows, preposition, raise crime rate, beautiful collocation, on television. Okay, please transfer these beautiful points into your vocabulary notebook. The new paragraph, the networks which put these shows on early in the evening. So the sentence is put on, which put these shows on, these shows early in the evening, offer these programs night after night. Some parents feel that the commercials which the stations show when children's programs are on, are showing, do not teach children good eating habits. My neighbor, Sandy Waller, said that her young son, who refused to eat anything but candy and sugar-coated cereals, has been influenced by these commercials. Recently, a newscaster was interviewing a top network executive, manager, boss, who was trying to defend the network's choice of children's programs, but what he said wasn't good enough. We, as viewers, must learn to choose the programs that we watch, especially considering that there are programs we should be more cautious about, such as those that might influence children's beliefs in the commercials they see. Final paragraph, indeed, with the stress on the second syllable, we will let these programs into our homes every night, and we must be vigilant, careful, about the content we allow, especially when there are critics who believe the quality of entertainment on television should be higher than just sex and violence. Okay, so this was adding to the cohesion and togetherness of these sentences by inserting some adjective clauses in examples in the middle of the text. Some of the sentences were changed, some of them were not used, but overall it was a suggested sample response to this exercise. And now, to wrap up our story, exercise 13-143. Two sentences, please combine them and make an adjective clause. Insert the adjective clause in the main clause. It says, the adverb clause test was easy. The test was last Friday. So the adjective clause, it is for the test and it should go after the adverb clause test. It cannot, for example, come here. We talked about it in the previous videos. The adverb clause test, which was last Friday, was easy. So add adjective clause here. It is about the test and we know which test we are talking about. We imagine that it is two students and they are talking about a specific test. That's why they say the adverb clause test was last Friday. So it is unnecessary with the two commas. Number two, I enjoy taking grammar tests. The tests are easy for me. So it is necessary. I want to set some of them apart from the whole, the easy ones. So it is necessary adjective clause. It doesn't need a comma. I enjoy taking grammar tests that are easy for me. Number three, our grammar teacher didn't tell us that the test would take 2 hours. She surprised everyone. Our grammar teacher, who surprised everyone, didn't tell us that the test would take 2 hours. So because we just have one grammar teacher, generally, it must be unnecessary adjective clause set off by 2 commas. If in a context someone has 2 grammar teachers or even more, then this adjective clause will be necessary. So we won't need the commas in that context. But generally, every student has just one grammar teacher. Number 4, I had reviewed the practice exam. I understand it very well. I had reviewed the practice exam, which I understand very well. So usually there is one practice exam only, so that's why I made it unnecessary adjective clause. Number 5, the test will be on adjective clauses. We will take this test next. The test which we will take next will be on adjective clauses. See where the adjective clause comes? It comes right after the word it is modifying, and because in this context it seems to be unnecessary, I put 2 commas. Number 6, this quarter is almost over. It started approximately 6 weeks ago. So surely this is unnecessary adjective clause. This quarter, we know which quarter. This quarter, which started approximately 6 weeks ago, is almost over, set off by 2 commas. Number 7, the students in this class will be studying in a partial academic program next quarter. The students receive an average of 70 in their classes this quarter. So the students in this class who receive an average of 70 in their classes this quarter will be studying in a partial academic program next quarter. Okay, relative pronoun as subject and unnecessary adjective clause set off by 2 commas. Number 8, when I enter the university, I'll study economics. See, if it is a major, it is economics, but economic is an adjective. I have always liked this subject. When I enter the university, I will study economics, which I have always liked. Unnecessary, set off by 1 comma. Number 9, before I begin my academic work, I'm going to take a short vacation. I need a vacation. Before I begin my academic work, I'm going to take a short vacation, which I need. Unnecessary. Number 10, my parents are planning to visit the United States at this time. I really want to see them. My parents, who I want to see, or whom I want to see, or that I want to see. Object, are planning to visit the United States at this time. Okay. And it is necessary adjective clause, so we cannot omit the relative pronoun. Number 11, my sister isn't coming with them. I haven't seen her in 2 years. My sister, whom I haven't seen in 2 years, isn't coming with them. So I put 2 commas. It shows that the person just has 1 sister. If we remove the commas, then it shows that the person has more than 1 sister. So it depends on you. So you see, putting these 2 commas will make it just 1 sister. Lifting them means that the person has more than 1 sister and wants to add more information by saying the one that I haven't seen in 2 years, not the one that I saw last week. So if you need more information about this comma and necessary, unnecessary adjective clauses, video 26, please. Number 12, my sister is going to have a baby soon, so I'll be an uncle. She was married last year. My sister, who was married last year, is going to have a baby soon, so I'll be an uncle. Again, the same story, the same analogy with the commas. Even you can lift the commas and then it shows the person has more than 1 sister. And the 13th, when I talked to her on the phone last week, she told me that her husband was really a nice person, so I'm anxious to meet him. I have never seen her husband. When I talked to her on the phone last week, she told me that her husband, whom I have never seen, was a really nice person, so I'm anxious to meet him. So surely here the adjective clause is unnecessary because surely the person has just 1 husband, and in this case we need to have these commas, certainly. And the 14th, her husband has a good job with the government. He has a master's degree in economics. So it is master's with an apostrophe, yes, master's degree, bachelor's, master's, and PhD. Economics with the final S, we talked about it. Her husband, who has a master's degree in economics, has a good job with the government. The 2 commas surely are necessary here, just 1 husband. You got it? Finito. So what's next? Next lesson will be on relative pronouns as object of preposition, the ones that we talked about, by whom, in which, for which. So that is pages 144 to 146. Next session we will talk about it. But as a clip review, what did we talk about today? Today we covered pages 139 to 143 of Communicate What You Mean, mainly focusing on relative pronouns as object of the adjective clause. Here I told you which videos to watch previously if you want to better understand relative pronoun as object of the adjective clause, and some examples here. You see that each of these highlighted relative pronouns has come instead of an object word in the previous sentence. That's why we call it relative pronoun as object. The common mistake that I have seen in many students is to bring the relative pronoun and to bring the reference of the relative pronoun simultaneously. This is incorrect. Stay clear. If it is the relative pronoun as object of the adjective clause, you can, and it's not a necessity, you can omit it, but please be careful. It can be omitted if the adjective clause is necessary. So the guest whom they invited, who they invited, or that they invited, all of them correct, with reducing levels of formality. The guest they invited, no relative pronoun. All of them are correct. This one is the most formal one, and the last one is the least formal one. Another example with which we covered it. Relative pronoun, is it subject of the adjective clause or object? I told you it is necessary for us to understand, because the following sessions we were talking about the reduction of adjective clauses, and we need to know. Here I told you go to the deep structure and find, for example, this who has come instead of a he or a him. That will tell you how to find out the subject or object of the adjective clause the relative pronoun is. And one more thing I told you, a relative pronoun as subject is followed by a verb phrase. Relative pronoun as object is followed by an independent clause. That is also a clear clue for you. Another example here, and then the exercises on John Wayne we covered, the exercise that we took the mistakes, and here the exercise to insert the sentences to add cohesion to the text, and final exercise for mixing the sentences with the adjective clauses. So that marks the end of today's session. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please know that these videos are kind of links of a chain. You need to have watched the previous ones to better understand the new ones. I hope you have enjoyed and you have learned a lot today. If you like the video, please kindly like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. I hope you have a brilliant day ahead of yourself. Take very good care, and bye